Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. Boomer tries to steal my baby. I'm a 20-year-old female with a 3-month-old son. We took our son to the park for the first time. They have swings good for little babies, so we had him in there. He absolutely loved it, by the way. There was an older lady there with 3 kids. I'm assuming her grandchildren because they were pretty young and she seemed my grandma's age. She was eyeing us up since the moment we got there. My fiance is a smoker and he's not allowed anywhere near the baby while smoking, so he went to the baseball fields to sit and smoke. This is a decent ways away. Even though this is a very small town, I didn't know the woman as we didn't live in the town that we are currently at. We live in the biggest town in that county, but apparently the county's park didn't have swings even though it's huge. What? But I was very familiar with this town as I lived here for many years when I was younger, so he was fine with leaving us alone, just not familiar enough to know the people anymore. My step-grandparents also lived here, so I felt comfortable. After my fiance had went over to the ballpark, this lady approached me and began talking to me. She asked me how I liked babysitting. I laughed and told her I wasn't babysitting, that this was my son. This set her off. She grabbed a hold of my wrist and told me don't lie to her, that I'm too young for this to be my son and that she doesn't believe me. She told me if I didn't produce valid forms of identity occasion for both of us, she would call the police for kidnapping. So here's the issue with that. I don't carry my wallet on me that often, and the only forms of identification I have for my son is his insurance card, as his birth certificate and social security card have not come in yet due to everything being bogged down from the virus. I told the lady that and she turned in her group in my wrist, stating that that's a lie because they give you documents at the hospital. They don't. It was escalated to the point where she shoves me down and tries to grab my son, stating that she will be keeping a hold of him until the cops arrived. I quickly got up and grabbed my son from her. I didn't punch her, but I did sort of palm her nose, which I guess I did harder than I meant to as she started bleeding. She yelled at me that she was going to press charges for assault. My fiance was making his way back during this time and caught the tail end of the confrontation. Skipping ahead to when the cops show. They are talking to each of us, but the old lady won't stop screeching, so they take her farther away to talk. I am in complete fight mode and terrified. I'm frantically explaining that I don't have ID, but this is my son. We just came here to the park to play. If there was any way I could prove I was the mother of my son, I showed him a photo of him getting pulled from me, C-section, and him on my chest a few hours later. Obviously, he looks different now, but you can tell it's the same baby. We were allowed to go home and we were told we'd be hearing from someone about the assault and charges against the woman. Update. We set up an appointment with a lawyer for this Monday and we'll be going to the police station later today. We called ahead and made an appointment for 3. It's noon currently. Someone had mentioned seeing if the park had cameras. I was pretty sure they didn't as it's a very small area, but I called anyways and turns out they did. They agreed to send a copy of the footage to me, but they only have a couple, so I'm not sure if what happened was caught on tape, as the cameras are near the pavilion and the swings are off to the side. I'd also like to add that I didn't expect this to blow up so much and would like to thank everyone for their kind words and support. I'm pulling for OP to get no charges pressed against them obviously, as this grandma was out of their mind. Even if somebody looks too young in theory to have a baby, why is the assumption they stole them? And it's such a difficult thing because it's a mother, you're trying to take a baby from their mother, so of course they're going to get defensive. What do you think this grandma deserves? Let me know in the comment section down below. Mother and entitled child ruined my birthday. I am a big Marvel fan. So when Endgame came to theaters, my at the time boyfriend bought us really good first class tickets. He was super sweet and I was so excited. His parents came with us because they wanted to see a movie too. We had front row seating that was in the exact middle of the theater. It was perfect. The seats were those bad seats, so he had brought a blanket so we could cuddle. The movie began and we settled down a bit. We were 20 minutes in when the door opens and a lady comes in parading in talking loudly on her cell phone. She is just dragging her kid along with her. She takes her seat but doesn't put away her phone. Unfortunately, her seat is right next to ours and the light is bothering me. I am a bit of a hyperactive and hypersensitive person. Going to the movies is hard enough without distractions. My boyfriend politely asks that lady if she could turn the brightness down or turn it off for a while. She looks at us under our blanket in disgust. I'm a trans dude and I was passing well enough to use the men's restroom. So we look like a gay couple, simple as that. She puts on a fake smile and turns off her phone. I go back to watching the movie. She is quiet, but not for long. She turns her phone back on and starts to watch a video on it. Her volume is all the way up and everyone is annoyed by her. Luckily, the people behind us tell her to stop. I try to focus on the movie again, only to have her lean over a moment later and yank the blanket off of us. I guess she thought we were doing something under there, cause I tend to fidget and stuff. "Oh well, you can never be too sure with bundles of sticks," she says and smiles like she is an angel. My boyfriend, who is normally very calm, just about loses it. He starts whisper telling and tells her to freak off. He wraps me in the blanket and goes to get security. The lady looks at me dumbly and her kid starts to ask for our popcorn. I decline and move all our snacks onto my side of the seats. The kid huffs and stands up to grab them for me. He is just standing in front of the screen and people are yelling at him. He makes a grab for our slushies and I pull them back. I don't like children and my many encounters like this only reinforce it. He stamps his foot. Around this time, my boyfriend comes back with a guy and points out the lady, who is promptly escorted out. Needless to say, it was awful. But at this point, we had missed half the movie and we decided to just go wait in the lobby for his mom and dad. They are also in the lobby and she storms up to us. I think it is good to mention that this lady is pretty tall and fairly large. I am a sort of small dude, so I'm intimidated. My boyfriend was not, and he just stood there and let her yell. When she finished, he told her to freak off. I echoed him, and she turned to me and started throwing all sorts of offensive slurs at us. Thinking she had done something, she stormed out. My birthday was ruined, but I didn't really care. I just wanted to go home and watch a movie on Netflix. That's what we did, and we recounted the whole story to his parents. I can laugh it off now, but at the time, stuff like that made me really anxious. I'm surprised they let the lady linger around in the lobby. I would think if somebody's doing that, they would get banned and kicked out. At least I hope so. I mean, I think that's what the lady deserves. Karen can't believe that you can use cash because of the coronavirus. You might be tired by the not me, but stories, but here's one. A little backstory so you can understand. My mom lost her job because of the coronavirus, but my aunt works at our uniform shop. We wear uniforms for school in Australia, and she managed to get my mom to work there. She's been working there for maybe 2 weeks now. Today, this girl came in with cash from her mom so she could get a new blazer. Now, at the front of the shop, it explicitly says no cash and even says it in the school newsletter. The uniform shop doesn't take cash because of the coronavirus. She keeps saying that she needs a blazer, but of course, it's against the rules, so my mom keeps refusing. So my mom calls the girl's mom to sort it out and, oh boy, my mom didn't know what was going to happen. My mom told the Karen that she won't take the girl's cash and that she needs to come in herself and pay via credit card. The Karen goes off saying that my mom wants her daughter to freeze. It's winter right now in Australia, we have opposite seasons to people in the northern hemisphere. And that she should take cash even though it says everywhere that they don't. The Karen keeps going on and on about how my mom is a witch and that she's purposely not giving her daughter a blazer and that she can pay in any way she wants. This ranting lasts 10 minutes. My mom is trying to reason with her, but she won't take it, and my aunt and the other uniform shop lady are helping people, and they could all hear the Karen screaming through the phone whilst it's happening too. The Karen tells her daughter to leave and then hangs up. My mom hasn't worked there very long, but she's encountered a few Karens. If you want another uniform shop story, I can post another. I just think this lady is very dense, doesn't accept the situation of the coronavirus. People aren't wanting to do things that exchange physical things in such a close proximity. I think it's a pretty simple concept to understand. Entitled parents make my employee cry, gets their free meal voucher revoked. Before we begin, a little bit of backstory. I'm a manager for a chain sushi restaurant somewhere in the western United States. This restaurant chain offers something very special to a select few customers who either show that they deserve it, aka spend so much on sushi over time, or make a good enough impression on the staff that they recommend you get one. Doesn't happen nearly as often as you'd think. A set of platinum chopsticks that entitles you to as much free sushi as you can stuff your gut with. The cast. Entitled Mother, the blonde demon woman. Entitled Kid, rotten crotch goblin. D, the father whose sanity I question for staying with this woman. E, employee. The day started off like any other day. Going in at 10:30, calling an all-hands meeting, getting everyone prepped up and ready for the day's opening, prepping counter space and cleaning utensils. You know, typical restaurant stuff. We're about 10 minutes from opening when one of my newer employees, E, walks in. She used her front door key and just came right on in. Unfortunately, Entitled Kid, Entitled Mother, and Dad all followed in soon after her. At this restaurant, it's custom to seat yourself and a member of waitstaff to come take orders. And when I say custom, I mean there are signs literally every 5 feet on every bench and table side saying to be seated and wait. Now, from this point in the story, I'm piecing everything together from employees' side of the story and what I saw on security tapes after handling the issue in person. The dastardly trio walk in, instead of being seated, walk directly up to the cashier's desk, which there's nobody currently at because we're still 5 minutes from officially opening. "Can we get some darn service?" Employee then snaps to attention and hops directly over to the desk. "I want my free sushi and I want it now." She then slams the platinum chopsticks on the counter and starts spouting off everything on the menu she wanted. Employee verifies that these are her chopsticks with some difficulty. Each pair is specifically registered to one person with a serial number stamped on the side. Employee says, "Will it just be you ordering today?" These chopsticks only entitle the person they're registered with to free food. "No, the chopsticks mean I get as much as I want, and I want enough for me and my family." "I'm very sorry, ma'am, but the contract that you signed to get those chopsticks clearly stated that you were only allowed one serving of your choosing at a time. Plus, Listen here, you snot-nosed brat. I don't care what you say. You're going to give me my free food or I'll go to your manager and have you tossed out. Serve me now." It's at this point I'm brought into the picture. Employee comes stumbling into my office, tears streaming down her face, and 3 other employees right behind her to quickly relay this story. I'll spare you the rest of the details as there was some not-so-clean language spoken between me and Entitled Mom. But here are some of the highlights. Entitled Kid decided it would be a good idea to run around every table and knock over all of the soy sauce bottles. The ones from Kiko Man that don't have a lid. Then run over to the drink machine behind the employees only counter and completely soak himself. Entitled Mom started shrieking at the top of her lungs that she's going to get what she wants and we're going to pay for her son's dry cleaning before throwing the peppermint bowl beside the register across the room. Meanwhile, Dad just stands there like this is all normal and smiles. Before everything was said and done, she managed to not only get her platinum chopsticks revoked, but she was also gifted a lovely pair of matching bracelets by a local police officer. Employee was sent home for the rest of the day with full pay while I took over her spot on that shift. Luckily, the rest of the day went smoothly. Let me just say, OP is a good manager. Not only handling the situation very well, but being kind enough to give the employee the day off and cover their shift. That is a good manager right there in my eyes. Karen 1 and Karen 2 McDonald's brawl. So a few days ago, my mom and I went through the drive-thru at McDonald's. It was around 2:30 p.m., so it was a little busy at that time of day. There's 2 cars ahead of us. The second one is a Ford Explorer, Karen 2, which is the important one. And there's 1 car behind us, Denali, aka Karen, aka Entitled Mother, whatever you prefer. My mom and I get our orders taken, and then we pay for our food. I didn't realize because I was on my phone, but we had been sitting there for quite a while. I just assumed it was a big order or a problem in the kitchen. The Explorer was stopped at the second window to pick up their food. About 10 minutes pass, and all of a sudden, Karen 1 honks at the Explorer. I kind of jumped because it startled me, and I started looking around. A few minutes later, Karen rolls down her window and pokes her head out to yell at the person driving the Explorer. We all had our windows down, it was a nice day, that's how we could all hear what was going on. "Why is your food taking so long? I have 2 toddlers in my car that are bawling their eyes out because they're so hungry." They definitely weren't crying, mind you, I would have heard them. And she said this in a very witchy tone. And then, in one of the greatest moments of my life, the driver of the Explorer, Karen 2, pokes her head out and says, "I have 2 kids in my car as well. They aren't crying because their food is taking a long time. Also in a very witchy tone. Karen 1 really doesn't like this as she yells, "Excuse me? How dare you say that about my children?" She then proceeds to get out of her car with a water bottle in hand, leaving her kids behind, and walks straight to the second window to further confront Karen 2. At this time, my mom and I are looking at each other like, oh shoot, something's about to go down. So from this point on, I couldn't make out too much of what went between the Karen 1 and Karen 2, but I did catch the being where Karen 2 says, "Ma'am, get away from my car. I do not want me or my kids to get the virus." While Karen 1 proceeds to yell at her, a lot of which and whoer was heard. The McDonald's worker finally comes to the window and opens it to see what is going on when the both Karens start yelling at the worker. The worker tries to get both of them to calm down or else she will be forced to call the police. But Karen 1 tells the worker she doesn't care and that her husband is a lawyer. Karen 2 then said something along the lines of, "Call the police and get them to take this crazy witch away." Karen 1 really doesn't like this as she proceeds to open her water bottle cap and throw the water bottle at Karen 2. Karen 2 then grabs Karen 1's hair while she is in her car and is trying to punch her. The worker calls the police while this whole cat fight is going on. Everyone else in the drive-thru is really shocked, and because this was a rural-ish McDonald's, there weren't many people around. But the ones who were started walking over to see what was going on. A guy started yelling to stop and starts making his way over to stop the fight. And Karen 1 notices this and runs back to her car, pulls out of the drive-thru, nearly hitting my mom's car in the process, and drives off. Karen 2 pulls out of the driveway as well and drives off. My mom and I look at each other like, what the freak just happened? The police show up and order everyone out of the driveway while he questions the McDonald's workers and the bystanders. Turns out, someone got a picture of Karen 1's plate number, but not Karen 2's, just the kind of car she was driving. Overall, it was a crazy day, one of the most entertaining days I'd had in a while. Downside, we did not get our McDonald's that day. I doubt the police are going to do anything about the plate numbers or anything beyond just letting it go, but it must have been kind of enjoying to watch this Karen fight go down. And sadly, I would be disappointed to not have my McDonald's after that. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today, so what I want to know is, which of these stories was your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.